Hi, I'm Adam Betts, I'm a tutor at Drum Tech, and I'd like to talk to you about tuning drums. So I'd like to start with looking at the snare drum. The very basic start to tuning drums is to imagine our skin as something slightly different. As we look at this drum, we've got a 10-lug drum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you can imagine that between these two lugs is a string, a guitar string. So one guitar string here, one guitar string here, one guitar string here, one guitar string here, and one guitar string here. And if those guitar strings have different notes on them that are kind of out of tune with each other, then it's going to sound kind of very, you're going to have a lot of nasty overtones in there, and it's going to become quite a difficult sound to record well or make project. So we try to get all these strings as the same note. And the important thing to do is to listen to your drum and try and hear the note. This is where a little bit of ear training comes in. La da, la da da. So we have to hold on to that note. And then we just want to make sure that that note is everywhere around these lugs. Not bad, actually, not bad at all. So you can hear, we've still got that fundamental, but the overtones are quite distinct on that. So that sounds pretty good for this bottom skin. Obviously best to tune it with the snares away from the head. Once I turn it over onto the top skin, we do the same. We mute the bottom skin so we don't have it ringing over. La da da, la da da. It sounds like there's lots of overtones in there. So we just need to go around, mute the middle of the drum. So you can hear straight away we've got this difference. A little high. Again, so I'm just working around each of these guitar, these imaginary strings of the opposite lugs to try and get them to the same pitch. Okay, so that sounds like it's holding together quite well. And then once we put the snare on, okay, talking about tuning a bass drum, the general theory with tuning any drum is that when we look at our lugs, in this drum we have 10 lugs, the opposite lugs act in effect as a string, a guitar string, if you can imagine that. So on this drum we'd have one string, one string, one string, one string, and one string. So 5 strings on this drum. We want to make sure that each of these strings is tuned the same at each tension rod and is tuned the same as each other to try and get a skin that vibrates naturally together without too many overtones. So it kind of sounds like a bass guitar, really, this one, I think. So there's a lot of overtones in there, but you should be able to hopefully hear this fundamental. Now, one of the tricky things as well with tuning a drum is to think that even if this pitch is too high, it might not necessarily be this lug. It might be this one. Because if we imagine them as strings, if you tighten both ends, it will get tighter. So you might find, hang on, this is really, really loose. I can't go any lower with this before all the skin starts to fall off. Might quite possibly be this lug here. So, and as we've dropped the pitch on this one, the whole tension on the overall on the skin has gone down a bit as well. So I could do with bringing this one up. And then, obviously, with the bass drum, if we're going for this rock sound, we'll be using some kind of dampening in it. So a couple of pillows in there against that back head, just to kind of keep it fairly dry and punchy. A lot of people make the mistake with the front head to have it too tight. There should be quite a lot of movement in there. So when you really hit that bass drum, poof, this skin really comes out and sends a jet of air across. The kind of idea behind tuning the toms, I think, is to get both skins at the same pitch on this. So where on the snare drum we had the bottom skin a little lower than the top skin, with the toms it's good to get them at the same pitch so that we get a nice pure tone coming out of that drum. So I'm getting la da 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 da, but also a na na na. That both of these lugs are going to be responsible for the note here and here. Okay, so hopefully, that's around there now. We're about a semitone down here, so we need to just come up just a little bit. And getting used to, how much to go with your key. I'd go, an eighth of a turn is my kind of general thing. If you go up a whole turn, you're going to really be lifting the pitch of the drum an awful lot. So let's just say that half turn. So when it comes to tuning our kit as a whole, first of all, repeat this process for every tom. I think it would be a little trickier on the bigger drums because the tones are obviously much, much, much lower. So there's more chance for overtones, there's more chance for anything like that. But then thinking about pitching our drums, so, bass drum and snare drum, those aren't too bad. Once you get a good sound on each of those, we should be in a really good place. And that's how to tune a drum kit.